I stood in my small office on what was supposed to be the proudest day of my career. 25 years. That is how long I had given to this place. My desk still had the same coffee mug I brought on my first day, and on the screen in front of me, lines of code I had written myself kept hundreds of trucks, moving across 3 states. The car tracking system I built was the heart of this company. Today I was finally going to collect my pension and step into retirement. But something in Richard's eyes this morning when he called me into his office made my stomach twist. A feeling I could not name whispered that everything I believed about loyalty was about to shatter. Before I tell you what happened in that room, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt undervalued at work, or if you are curious how this story ends, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about loyalty and justice. Let's dive in. I need to take you back to where it all started. 1998. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college with a computer science degree, and dreams bigger than my bank account. Transfleet Logistics was a small company back then, just 15 people working out of a rundown office on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado. The carpet was stained, the air conditioner barely worked in summer, and the coffee maker looked like it belonged in a museum. But none of that mattered to me. I was young, hungry, and ready to prove myself. The day Richard interviewed me, he sat across from me in a chair that squeaked every time he moved. He was 35, then lean and energetic with a smile that made you want to trust him. He looked me straight in the eye and said something I would remember for the next 2.5 decades. "We take care of our people here, Kendall. You stick with us, we will stick with you." Those words settled into my chest like a promise carved in stone. I signed the contract that afternoon without reading the fine print. I was too excited, too naive, too eager to start building something meaningful. The pension section was just a blur of legal language I assumed would work in my favor someday. Those first few years were a blur of late nights and early mornings. I started as a junior programmer, but I learned fast. I soaked up everything I could about logistics, fleet management, hardware integration. By 2003, Transfleet had grown to 50 trucks, and that is when the real problems started showing up. We were tracking everything manually. Drivers would call in their locations, dispatchers would scribble notes on whiteboards, and nobody really knew where half the trucks were at any given moment. Deliveries got delayed, fuel got wasted. Clients started complaining. I saw the problem clearly. We needed automation. We needed GPS tracking that could tell us in real time where every truck was, how fast it was going when it needed maintenance. So I walked into Richard's office one Tuesday afternoon and pitched the idea. He listened, nodding along, but when I finished, he just shook his head. "Kendall, that sounds great, but we do not have the budget for something like that. Maybe in a few years." I could have left it there, but I did not. I told him I would build it myself on my own time, no extra pay. He looked at me like I had just offered him a winning lottery ticket. "You would do that," I nodded. "For the company," I said. "For our future." I spent the next 8 months living and breathing that project. My tiny apartment became a workshop. I bought hardware with my own money. I taught myself things I had never learned in school. My girlfriend at the time, Emma, would bring me dinner and find me hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m, eyes bloodshot, fingers flying across the keyboard. She never complained. She just kissed my forehead and told me she believed in me. The first version of the system was rough, clunky, held together with duct tape and hope. But it worked. When I installed it on our first 10 trucks, Richard stood in the office watching the little dots move across a digital map on the screen, and his face lit up like Christmas morning. "This is incredible, Kendall. You are a genius." Within 3 months, we had cut fuel costs by 18% and reduced late deliveries by 40%. The company started making real money. That was just the beginning. From 2005 to 2015, I kept improving the system. I added fuel monitoring so we could see which drivers were wasting gas. I built in speed tracking so we could catch guys who drove recklessly. I created maintenance alerts that told us exactly when a truck needed an oil change or a brake check. Every upgrade made Transfleet more efficient, more profitable, more competitive. The company exploded. 50 trucks became 100. 100 became 200. By 2015, we had 300 trucks on the road, and revenue had jumped from $2 million a year to $25 million. Richard got rich. Really rich. He bought a mansion in Cherry Creek, the fancy part of Denver, where the houses have gates and circular driveways. He drove a silver Porsche. He wore expensive suits. Me, I was still just the IT guy. My salary went up steadily, sure. I was making decent money. but nothing close to what the company was pulling in, and nothing compared to what my system had earned for Transfleet. I did not complain, though. I had friends at work. There was Marcus, a truck driver who had been there since the beginning. There was Linda, the accountant, who always remembered my birthday. There was James, the warehouse manager, who made me laugh during lunch breaks. We were a family, or at least I thought we were, and I kept believing in Richard's promise. You stick with us. We will stick with you. Then came 2020. The pandemic hit, and the world turned upside down. A lot of companies in our industry went under, but Transfleet survived. Actually, we thrived. Why? Because my tracking system let us pivot to fast delivery services. We could coordinate routes in real time, optimize everything down to the minute. While our competitors scrambled, we adapted. Richard called me into his office one day during the worst of the lockdowns and shook my hand. You saved us, Kendall. I mean it. I should have asked him what that gratitude looked like in dollar signs, but I just smiled and went back to work. That same year, Marcus retired. He was 67, had been driving trucks for 42 years. The company threw him a small party in the break room. There was a sheet cake, some balloons, and Richard gave him a gold watch with an engraving. I did not ask how much pension Marcus got. It felt rude. But I assumed it was generous. He had been there forever. Linda retired 2 years later, in 2022. Same deal. Small party, handshake, a gift. I started thinking more seriously about my own retirement. I was 47 years old. I had been working non-stop for a quarter century. I wanted time to travel with Emma. I wanted mornings where I did not have to answer emails. I wanted to finally learn how to cook something other than scrambled eggs. One night I dug through my filing cabinet and found the contract I had signed back in '98. The paper was yellowed, the ink slightly faded. I flipped to the section about pension benefits. Employee pension shall be calculated based on company policy at time of retirement. That was it. Vague. No numbers. No formulas. Just trust in the company's discretion. I read it 3 times, feeling a knot form in my stomach. But then I thought about Richard's words from that first interview. We take care of our people. I convinced myself it would be fine. After 25 years of loyalty, after building the system that made this company what it was, Richard would do right by me. I had to believe that. March 15th, 2023. My retirement day. I woke up before dawn, too anxious to sleep. Emma made my favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with real maple syrup, and squeezed my hand across the table. You deserve this, Kendall. You have earned it. I nodded, but my throat felt tight. I put on my best suit, the navy one I only wore to weddings and funerals. It felt strange. I usually worked in jeans and a t-shirt. Emma straightened my tie and kissed my cheek. Go get what is yours. I drove to the office, my mind running calculations the whole way. If Transfleet was fair, if they valued what I had given them, my pension should be at least $50,000. Maybe even $100,000. That would be enough. Emma and I could finally take that trip to Europe we had been dreaming about for years. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. I could see it so clearly. Us holding hands in front of the Eiffel Tower, laughing like kids. The office parking lot was nearly empty when I pulled in. No decorations. No balloons. No banner that said, "Congratulations, Kendall," or "Thanks for 25 years." Just the same gray building I had walked into thousands of times before. Inside, a few of the newer employees nodded at me as I passed. They did not know me well. Most of the old crew was gone, retired, or moved on. The only familiar face was James, the warehouse manager. He was standing by the water cooler, and when he saw me, his expression flickered with something I could not quite read. Pity. He looked away quickly, pretending to be busy with his phone. At 9 a.m., Sharp, Richard's assistant, called my desk. "Mr. Thompson wants to see you now." My heart hammered as I walked down the hallway to his office. The door was heavy wood with his name engraved on a gold plaque. I knocked twice. "Come in." His voice was flat, businesslike. Richard's office was nothing like the cramped space he had worked in when I first started. Now it was all polished wood and leather. A massive desk made of walnut sat in the center, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Denver. Richard sat behind the desk, his hair completely gray, now his face heavier than I remembered. 60 years old, and successful beyond anything he could have imagined back in '98. He did not smile when I walked in. He did not invite me to sit down. He just opened a drawer, pulled out a small white envelope, and slid it across the desk toward me. "Here is your pension, Kendall. As per the contract." I picked up the envelope. It was light. Too light. I opened it slowly, and inside was a single bill. $50. One $50 bill. I stared at it, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. I actually laughed. It was a nervous, confused sound. "Good one, Richard. Where is the real check?" He did not laugh. His face stayed blank cold. "That is the real check. The contract says pension is at company discretion. Company policy is $50. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of his desk to steady myself. "Richard, I have been here for 25 years. I built the entire tracking system. This company would not exist without it." Every word came out slow, deliberate, like I was trying to explain something simple to a child who refused to understand. He cut me off. "The system belongs to the company. You were paid a salary for your work. The contract is clear." He reached into another drawer and pulled out a photocopy of my original contract, the one I had signed 25 years ago, without reading carefully. He pointed to a line buried in the middle of page 3. "Pension at company discretion. See, you agreed to this." I looked at the words. They blurred in front of me. My hands started to shake. I thought about all the nights I stayed late while everyone else went home. I thought about the weekends I gave up to fix bugs, the vacations I skipped, because the system needed an upgrade. I thought about Emma waiting at home right now, probably baking something special for my return, imagining us celebrating. And here I was holding a $50 bill like some kind of sick joke. Richard leaned back in his chair. "Now pack up your desk and leave. Your access will be revoked at 5 p.m. today."